Join us for today's discussion of Eugene Mitchell's book, Closing the Racial Wealth Gap. Today, we look at ourselves as an estate and not an individual, as well as talk about the importance of having enough coverage to protect your estate. Use the hashtag Pastor JD03 or JD03 podcast to join this discussion. And now to today's podcast.
And I surely would love to hear just a little bit of feedback from you on what your thoughts are about the perspective that Brother Mitchell brings to us as we are in this discussion. So the rule number 2 that he has for us is insure yourself to ensure your future. Insure yourself to ensure your future. He said that he was tired of seeing our community not getting ahead economically. This is a thing that he took from a conversation from Cirillo McSween, who was actually his mentor as he came into the insurance business. He said the reason that he got into the insurance business is because he looked around and our community was not advancing. He saw other families that were of Anglo descent that had a family member die, and of course they cried the same tears. They mourned the same length, but they also had $250,000 in their bank, and they also had 16 acres of land that they were able to navigate from. So they still mourn, but they also experience some joy because they have been left something that they can build on from Grandpa's legacy, right? So he says, look, this is also on page 65. We should expand our understanding and action to now incorporate estate into our vocabulary and match what others have been doing and building for generations. So he says, look, I want you to think of yourself as John Doe Estate, right? I don't want you to think of yourself as a person. I want you to think of yourself as an estate, right? Where I have an accumulation of things that I am responsible for, right? A variety of things that make up or encompass who Johnny Ogletree III is. I am not just a preacher or not just a pastor, but I am a father, I am a husband, I am an entrepreneur, I am an investor, I am a landowner, right? And I am a stockhold owner, right? I own stock, right? And so he wants you to think of yourself as an estate, right? I am a house. When you think about an estate, what do you think about, brothers and sisters? That word estate, what comes to mind when you think about the word estate? Anybody, holler at your boy, please. Share with me in the chat. Let me see if I can. What comes to mind? He says this is really the main problem with the African American community. He says, look, we don't think of ourselves as an estate, right? We think of ourselves as an individual. And he's saying, no. This is a concept of understanding your entire network. Your net worth, I'm sorry. Not network, it's your entire net worth. Thinking down to the very, very small bits of what you own. Not just the company, not just your home, but the things that encompass the home, the things that make up the home, the things that are inside of the home. You have to think about every specific aspect of what you have so that you can be very, very fruitful and a good steward over what you have obtained. He wants us to look at our real estate, all of our possessions, every financial security that you have, all of the cash that you have, every type of asset you have, and also the liabilities that you have. And you have to think of these all as a part of the estate, right? They are a part of, they all play a role in painting this financial picture of who you are. And if you are not constantly thinking about yourself as an estate and positioning yourself as an estate, you will cause those that follow behind you to either suffer and struggle, or they will not benefit from what you have started because you have not properly planned or positioned yourself, right? All right, so the next thing he says is, look, getting insured think build, not build. And so that's the next thing he talks about in it. And one of the things he wants us to understand is normally when we think about life insurance, the main thing that we think about is how much is this going to cost me every month, right? So he's saying, yeah, when you have that type of mindset, you are thinking about life insurance as a bill. Can I afford this bill every month? It's going to be $60. Where does this put me every month with my my reserve, with my income? How much will this restrict me from doing the things that I desire? And he's saying, yes, you do understand that it is something that is going to come out monthly out of your checking account, right? But what he wants you to understand is this is just like a stock, right? It's just like putting money into your 401k. This money is not lost money. It is accumulated money, right? It is money that you will recoup in the back end of this investment, and it has interest involved in it, right? And if you do not benefit from it financially, it is also something that will be an investment that will pay out immediately to your family. So brothers and sisters, life insurance, according to Brother Mitchell, you shouldn't think about it as a bill. You think about this as an investment. This is an investment in me. It's an investment in my spouse. It's an investment in my kids. It's an investment in my business. It's an investment in the land that my family owns. Whatever it is, you're thinking about this as a way to invest in your future. You want to extend your legacy, then pass something on that helps to tend to your legacy, that helps to secure your legacy. Don't position the next generation to have a yard sale with your stuff because you are not a good steward over it. Right? And to be honest, brothers and sisters, that's what's going to happen to most of the stuff you have, because you're nowhere near paying it off, and you're going to pass on the next generation who is still establishing themselves things that they cannot add into their responsibilities. So the only response they can have is to sell what you passed on, because you were not a good steward and diligent with paying off the things that you put your name on and now have decided to pass on as a responsibility to those that follow you. Amen. Does anybody follow this logic? Anybody with me on this? Because that's what's happening. Some of you may even have a testimony. There were some things that maybe your grandmother or grandfather passed on to you, or maybe mom or dad passed on to you, that you wanted to hold on to. But when when it came time to pay the taxes, when it came time to rebuild or restructure or to replenish, or to relaunch, or to re-engage, or to refurbish, you didn't have the money, and you weren't in a position, or you didn't have the credit or the leverage to be able to do the things that you need to do. So what you ended up doing is selling the business or selling the property and trying to reposition yourself to further establish yourself. And so he says, look, that is what's going to happen with the stuff that you leave behind if you are not a good steward over it, and you leave it up to the next generation to try to figure out to handle what you, in all of your wisdom, could not figure out how to handle. That doesn't make sense, does it? All right, so what he's saying is, look, don't think of the life insurance as a bill. Think about it as an investment in the future that is going to help your next generation extend its legacy. All right, so he says, look, when you think about what your future is, right, or what your estate needs, it needs to be able to replace two things. And he says that's human capital and that's financial capital, right? The human capital is your presence, right? What you add, that's the wisdom, that's the teaching, that's the ability to work that you have, where you can go out and you can take on a second job and you can replace the income that was lost, maybe because you had to take a loss on the business, or maybe the franchise closed and you had to reposition yourself and to shift your thinking around a little bit. And so he's like, look, that's that human capital, right? That you can always put yourself back out there and to add more back into your family as an earner, right? Then there's the financial capital. Maybe you're still working, but you do not earn at the same rate that you used to, right? So that financial capital, maybe the money that's coming in from your business that is not fully debt free, but it is still bringing in income to your family. So that's something, it's financial capital. It adds in to what is sustaining and building your family. Well, brothers and sisters, if you pass, then your family loses that human capital. And if you pass, your family also loses that financial capital. So if you're not at debt free, those two things are now removed from the equation, and you may leave a spouse, if you have a spouse that is a stay-at-home and or that is retired, you leave that person now without a financial response. Well, they're limited on their financial response because they have to respond as one as opposed to responding as two. And then also because they're responding as one and not as two, they're also limited from the financial aspect of what can be added. And if you are the one that is the highest degree or the largest earner, they are also able to go out and earn more, but they're going to accumulate or to earn at a lower rate or and at a slower pace than you were earning, right? So it's not that they cannot earn or not that they cannot work, but they're not going to work and earn just as you have earned. And if you have amassed everything around your ability, around your degree as or your connections, then when they are left unto themselves, they will not be in a position to replace what you bring to the table, despite their hardest or their greatest efforts. And so then what will happen is they'll be in a position where they will go out and work hard, but will not be able to sustain what you have brought to the table. And thus, because of that, they will find themselves in a position where they may have to liquidate the things that you have brought to the table that were a blessing to the family. All right. And so you want to make sure that you are thinking along those lines, right? So if you have dependents, children, spouse who will suffer financially if you die, life insurance, according to Eugene Mitchell, is a necessity. It is not an option. It is a necessity. So we need to figure out, brothers and sisters, how we can take care of our family.
Next week, we look at creative ways to cover your estate. Should you start a business or should you buy a life insurance policy? As well as looking at some of the benefits that come along with buying a whole life insurance policy. I want to hear from you. Use the hashtag PastorJD03 or JD03 podcast to join the discussion. I'm Johnny Ogletree III, and I look forward to speaking with you next week on Pastor JD03, the podcast.